Good evening. I would like to call the Whitemarsh Township Board of Supervisors meeting for February 27th, 2020 to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was our Boy Scout club, or group? Troop. What number?
140 and 1140.
140 and 1140. And you are here because of
They're
merit
working on a merit
badge.
badge called Citizens.
Do you want to come up to the microphone and, or we don't have a microphone there.
We're getting batteries.
So we are here for merit badge college citizenship in the community. Yeah.
And are you just taking notes? Do we have
Taking
to?
notes, understanding what it's like to go to a board meeting.
Wonderful. Yeah. Exciting. Good.
Then they have to debate on a topic that's discussed tonight, pro and con. So,
Well, I hope we can help you on that tonight. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Maybe afterwards you can come up and sit in the chairs here and see what it's like from this side.
Yeah, we'll sit down there. Announcements?
Thanks, Laura. Maybe they want to come up and read the announcements. Very exciting. So Shredding Day is Saturday, March 7th at Miles Park, lower lot off Germantown Pike from 8 a.m. to noon. It's a free service, but contributions supporting Whitemarsh Community Ambulance and Whitemarsh Parks and Recreation will be accepted. Want another stab at Valentine's Day? Parents' Night Out is scheduled for Saturday, March 14th from 5 until 10 p.m. at the Kuntz Park Building. The cost is $20 per child for township residents and $23 per child for non-township residents. Children must be 3 to 11 years of age in order to participate. Activities include crafts, games, movies, and more. Township Day will be held on Saturday, April 25th from 12 noon until 5 at Victory Fields. Residents will be treated to raffles, games, music, and a variety of vendors and food trucks. We hope to see you there. Speaking of Township Day, we'd like to congratulate Tom Blumstrom, our Parks and Rec Director, who recently celebrated his 5th anniversary with the township. Congratulations, Tom. Not here. I was just kidding. Seeing if everyone's awake. We'd also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Jackie Beebe, who will be leaving Parks and Rec Department next month after 2 years of exemplary service. Thank you, everybody.
And I believe Jackie's staying through Township Day. So Tom is a little
Yes.
saint. Good.
Very good.
Awesome. And we have on the agenda that the group for the census is going to speak, but I don't believe they're here yet.
Yes, unfortunately, they are not here, but what I'd like to say is the census is important, and it's coming. This is a census year in 2020. We're going to start to see some census information coming out to all of your homes, I believe, next month in March. It is very important that we report to the census. Why is this important? Because it impacts funding from the county level all the way down to the local level. So this is a very important process that the federal government goes through. It requires all of us to participate in the census. They are actually hiring census workers that work in, I'll say, this general region that will actually be going out and checking or calling. So there's opportunities. I believe there's might be some information on our social media and our website if anyone's interested in getting involved there. But the most important thing and the thing that we can certainly stress is that you make sure that you are participating in the census. If you're talking to your friends and your neighbors and they say, it's not important, it very much is important, and we encourage you to, if you need information, you can go on the census website. There's a lot of information on there about the documents, how to fill them out. They're not terribly difficult to do and not time consuming, but it is very important that you are counted and that you do fill out your 2020 census information.
Excellent. And any other information we'll upload on the website.
We will continue
Yep.
to push out all of their information on our social media, our website, and our weekly e-newsletter, yes.
Great, thanks. All right, so moving on to public hearings. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 01-20 for the Anusa Nail Studio LLC, 428 Germantown Pike, to allow a personal service shop in the VC1 district?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Boyle-Nestor. Now that we've opened the public hearing, what I'm going to do is mark some exhibits for the record. T1 will be a copy of our proof of publication from the Times Herald dated February 10th and February 17th, 2020. T2 will be an application with floor plan and site photos. T3 will be a letter from Corman Commercial Properties confirming applicant's lease at the shops of Lafayette Hill for a space at 428 Germantown Pike. T4 will be a letter from Michael Landis, Esquire, representing the shops of Lafayette Hill, authorizing applicant to apply for subject conditional use. T5 will be the resident notification letter. T6 will be the zoning ordinance compliance review. T7 will be the Whitemarsh Planning Commission recommendation February 11, 2020. And T8 will be a posting of the property dated February 19th, 2020. Just so the public understands what the process is, Mr. Guttenplan can give a brief explanation of this application. Then there will be an opportunity for the applicant to come ahead, also speak briefly on the application. There will be an opportunity for board comment, an opportunity for public comment. If the board wants more information, they can continue the public hearing on the record to a later date, or they can close the public hearing and potentially take action this evening or within 45 days. Mr. Guttenplan?
Thank you very much. This, as you've heard, is an application for conditional use for a personal service shop. The applicant's location is in the VC1 Village Commercial District, which requires conditional use approval for these types of facilities according to Section 116-290C2 of the zoning ordinance. The location is actually in the shops of Lafayette Hill, as you've heard, which is the Wawa Shopping Center. It is the furthest eastern facility space in that shopping center. It used to be leased by Born to Run, has been vacant for a couple of years. So it is that space in the second building in which this is being proposed. This was in front of the Planning Commission on February 11th, and the Planning Commission recommended that the board consider approval of this conditional use. And with that, their attorney, Dave Ennis, is here, and I will suggest he come up to the podium, and I will put up the plan.
And I'm going to take a brief break here for our scouts in attendance. What we are here talking here is you have Mr. Meller, who just got on. Mr. Meller is our township manager. Sorry, Rick. You can keep working. He's our township manager. He works full-time for our township and kind of runs things for us and looks out for us and gives us information. You heard from Mr. Kilkenny over there. He's our lawyer, so he gives us legal advice. So he was just entering some exhibits into the record. So we have a stenographer here typing everything down for this hearing, so it's an important hearing. And then you heard Mr. Guttenplan, who's Director of Planning and Zoning. So he's kind of in charge of how people use property all over the township as a house and as a business. So those, and then you have Mr. Hirsch over there. You haven't heard from him yet, but you will. He's our engineer. He's kind of like, how would you describe being an engineer? It's complicated. He kind of looks into how the properties are being used and whether they're, got anything better? I'm having a hard time with it.
Review against the subdivision and land development ordinance and also the stormwater management ordinances.
Yeah,
Usually
that's
people have more
complicated.
difficulty describing what a planner does.
Yeah.
You did a good job with that.
Well, really together, they help figure out how property is being used and whether it's being used properly and safely.
Mike wants to be a teacher, and don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz after this. No.
Oh, good evening. My name is David Ennis. I'm an attorney. Thank you for taking the time to hear this application. I represent Sine Nguyen, standing to my left here. She's the owner of the Anusa Nail Studio, and she's rented space at 428 Germantown Pike. It's the shops at Lafayette Hill. I'm sure you're familiar with that shopping center at Germantown and Joshua. If you're looking at it, this space is all the way to the left. Used to be Born to Run, I guess a sneaker shop there. She's entered into a 5-year lease, which of course is conditioned upon this approval. It's a personal service shop, which is permitted in the Village Commercial District. And I think there's already 2 other personal service shops. There's a beauty salon and a dry cleaner. Next door, there's a jeweler. Let's see if I can get this working. So that's the location. You can see there's a big parking lot behind Wawa. That's where her employees are required to park according to the lease. And this is the site here, property. Nothing will change on the exterior. The only thing that'll change is the sign. There's ample parking there. There's also parking out on Germantown Pike on the shoulder here, which appears to be legal parking out there. So we don't think it'll have a significant impact on the parking. It's an existing spot. The interior, of course, is going to be changed. This is a plan. There's 4 stations for manicures and then pedicures over here. There's a waiting area. And yeah, my client has about 20 years experience in the business. She has a degree in finance from Temple and a cosmetology degree. So she's very qualified. She's looking forward to having her own shop. And she's made a big investment. We hope you give her your blessing. So maybe I could ask her a few questions. So can you tell the board how long you've been in the business?
Yes, I have experience in the personal care with the concentration in the nail services, which is the grooming of the nails for the hands and the feet. I've done jobs in finance and accounting, but I seem to always go back to doing the personal care, and I've experienced enough to figure what's good for the industry, and I feel like I'm a good fit to what the existing businesses that are there now. So I'm hoping to be able to get in as being my own business. I'm able to make flexible schedule so that I can take care of my little son that's in school. So I'm hoping this is where I can focus on.
How many employees do you expect to have?
Well, we're going to have 4 stations which can house 4 employees, but just starting out, I will do 2, and if we do good, we'll be able to get more employees.
Okay. And what will your peak hours of operation be?
The weekdays is more like from 5 to 7 p.m. where people come out of work, and then on a Saturday, it's 9 to 10, and we close. Saturday, peak hour is 9 to 12, and we close on Sundays.
So Monday through Friday is 5 to 7 p.m.?
Yeah, peak hours, yes, but we
Peak.
open from 10 to 7.
Okay.
And I will mainly focus on appointments with very few walk-ins, so therefore I can control my schedule and the flow of the traffic coming through my shop.
Any questions?
You will take walk-ins though, correct?
Only when I'm able to, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So are you going to have a sign that says appointment only, or?
Appointments recommended, yes.
Okay.
If somebody come in, we can answer questions and let them know how we like to conduct the business, yes.
Okay.
As we only gonna have few people working, there's not much that we can do except to do by appointments more, yeah.
And you're doing nails only?
I'll be doing nails And when we able to, we can add in like complimentary service, like waxing or something like that, yes. Mhm. But the main focus is nails, yes.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sean or Rick, I remember us reviewing a nail salon a few years ago, and there was some conversation about the disposal of or the use of certain chemicals or products. And so I don't know if council, I don't know if you're aware of kind of what the regulations are surrounding how products are used or what products will not be used or ones that might not be safe for the environment. So I don't know if anyone has any input on that. I remember.
Maybe they
And
can.
we can ask them, I
Yeah.
don't know off the top of my head.
Well, the states have also recommendations, because we're licensed by the state of Pennsylvania, and they also let us know what is safe to use and what not safe to use, and we do follow that regulation also. That's why I would like to have my own shop so that I can, perform that by myself instead of just following what's not good practice and what's bad practice.
Can you just clarify, so you personally are licensed or the business is licensed, or both?
I'm personally licensed, and the people that we're going to hire will also be licensed, yes. And then the business, once we get approved, will be licensed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no more board comment, perhaps public.
Any other board comment? Any public comment?
If there is none, you can do a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
So, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And I think we are okay to move down to motions. Do I have a motion to approve conditional use 01-20, Anusa Nail Studio LLC, 428 Germantown Pike, to allow a personal service shop in the VC1 district?
So moved. Second.
Any other board comment or public comment? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks. Will be excused?
Yes.
bet.
Thank you.
No, that's all. All right, moving on to our minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from January 23rd, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Any board comments? Public comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you. No public board discussion items. Moving on to resolutions. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2020-07, amending the 2020 fee schedule to adjust the electrical permit fees based on the recommendation from the United Inspection Agency?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying, oh, sorry, yeah, go right to you. Right.
Thank you, Chair Nesto. I'll give a brief explanation of this action item before you. As you may recall, for some of you at our December 9th, 2019 meeting, we approved United Inspection Agency as the third party designated to handle all electrical inspections and electrical permitting. In doing so, they reviewed our fee schedule related to electrical permits and found that with the surrounding municipalities, and found that it was a little bit lower, quite frankly, than the other surrounding municipalities. So they recommended a slight adjustment to the fee schedule to become more in line with our surrounding municipalities. We approved the fee schedule at that same meeting, and in doing so, we didn't make any changes because we wanted to wait to make sure that the board was approving the third party. Didn't want to put the cart before the horse, so to speak. So we're here before you to make an adjustment to the fee schedule that you see. Again, it's a slight adjustment. It's for electrical residential inspections. Right now, it's each additional $2,000 of cost or fraction thereof. It was $10. The recommendation is each additional $1,000 of cost will be $30. And then under the commercial, it was each additional $2,000 of cost is $30. The new recommendation is each additional $1,000 of cost will continue to be $30. We have a resolution. We are able to amend our fee schedule by resolution. We did that a few years ago. So that is what is being proposed based on the recommendation of United Inspection Agency and staff's review of their recommendation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any board comment on anything? Public comment? All right. All those in favor? Roll call, please.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drosner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. All right. Mike wants the gavel. There we go. It's official. It's officially official. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-08, authorizing the submission of the DVRPC Transportation and Community Development Initiative Grant for a multimodal connection study of Washington Street and the riverfront of Spring Mill Station?
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan for a brief explanation on this grant submission.
Thank you. This is an application for Transportation and Community Development Initiative funds. These are federal funds that are passed through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission as the metropolitan planning agency for this region. And these are intended to implement the region's long-range plan, which DVRPC has adopted, and specifically for enhancing transportation and land use connections and dealing with congestion and all modes of transportation. And what our study is proposed to do is implement some of the recommendations in the 2016 Riverfront Plan. That Riverfront Plan, interestingly enough, was also funded with a TCDI grant. That particular one was a joint grant with Conshohocken Borough. And that was successfully completed, and we received all of the grant money for that. This proposed grant is for $100,000 for a total study cost of $125,000. The $25,000 is the township's obligation as the match, and it is divided into $18,750, which would be a cash match. The remaining $6,250 is an in-kind services match of staff time, etc., things of that nature. It equates for the year-long study to approximately 120 hours of staff time between myself and administrative assistants, as well as some other supplies and copying and things of that nature. The study is meant to look at a number of things. One of the key things it's meant to look at is some of the transportation issues in the Conshohocken Spring Mill area. And up on the screen or the wall is the proposed study area, which is very similar to the study area for the Riverfront Plan. It includes the entire area around the Spring Mill Station, includes key streets like Washington Street, East Hector Street, North Lane, Lee Street, and some of the surrounding streets. Moving toward the west, it goes up to the township boundary, which is that diagonal line that cuts across property lines. It includes properties going up North Lane, specifically it includes the entirety of the Spring Mill Corporate Center, including the area on the north side of the corporate center, which is undeveloped at this time. It includes some other underutilized or partially utilized parcels, both on North Lane and down along the river. And that's one of the other things that the study is going to look at. It's going to take our general recommendations from the comprehensive plan update that we're currently completing and make some very specific recommendations on some of these underutilized parcels. For example, the comprehensive plan draft shows this entire area as a mixed-use area with a number of potential uses, but doesn't specifically assign a particular use to a particular parcel. We're hoping that this study will take a closer look at some of those parcels and make specific recommendations as to usage. One of the other things that is key here is that we'll incorporate the Washington Street Extension feasibility study, which we currently have in this year's capital program. If this study is approved and we get this grant, that will be a component of this study. It will also look at the Lee Street dead-end issue. It'll look at some of the other intermodal issues where there are pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular conflict points. There are a lot of very dangerous crossings in this area, and that's another thing that this study is going to look at. We will find out about the results of our application in several months, and we would be able, if we receive the funding, we'd be able to start probably after going through a RFP process to choose a consultant. We'd probably be in a position to begin the study early fall of this year, and it would be projected to be a one-year study to be completed approximately early fall of 2021. That's essentially the summary. It technically has been submitted to DVRPC pending this resolution because the grant submission deadline was February 21st. And this is the only outstanding component, and DVRPC allows up to March 31st for this resolution to be passed on to them.
Excellent.
So another teaching moment for our scouts here. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get money, help someone to chip in to help us look into the waterfront down near the Schuylkill River in Whitemarsh and Conshohocken. Years ago, I don't know if any of the parents lived around here. Did any of you guys grow up around here? But okay, people didn't really go in the water much back in the day. No one went down there. People stayed away from it. It was like almost dangerous. Now, over the past 5 or 10 years, people have started building some apartments down there, and there's more people kind of going down there and trying to use the open space either for fun or to live. So we're trying to get a little money. It costs about $125,000 for the study. So we're hoping that this agency will give us $100,000 and then we'll chip in $25,000 and we can see how to best use it. Like you heard, there's a couple like dangerous roads down there. There's some dead ends. We got to figure out the best way if we're going to use that land. What's the best way to use it? So that's what we're doing. And they just need us to kind of approve it and sign a document telling them that we're interested in doing it. Sound about right, Charlie?
Very, very correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fran, you understand now?
I follow now. That's called briefly, Charlie.
Any other board comment? Do we have any other public comment? Yep.
Good evening, Sidel Zove, and I apologize for having missed the beginning of this presentation, but I couldn't get here sooner. And perhaps some of the issues I'm about to raise have already been addressed. But first and foremost, I know that the township successfully applied for and received 2 grants for the Miracle Nature Trail, which is going to start on Butler Pike and ideally follow the Pico right-of-way all the way down to this area, to the Spring Mill Station. And so I wonder about the extent to which that feasibility, which is underway, will coordinate with this feasibility. Has there been any discussion about how the two will mesh? And my understanding is there are 2 grants. each $40,000, one from DCNR, from the state, one from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. The DVRPC grant of $40,000 has been received and is being used for phase 1 of the feasibility, which is to negotiate with PICO and get their okay to proceed. And once that happens, phase 2 of the feasibility will begin with the DCNR $40,000 grant. And that's the actual planning, engineering for the trail. So, and the whole process is going to take years, as I understand. So my question is, to what extent has that feasibility and that planned trail been discussed in the context of this trail?
If I could answer, this grant has to do with pedestrian access. So that is going to be a pedestrian trail that is going to terminate in and around this area. So that'll all be taken into consideration as we look at both of those studies with regards to pedestrian access, connectivity, which is very important to us for both of those grants. So yes,
and
the answer is yes.
Obviously, there's some overlap.
Yes.
And my understanding, furthermore, is that the engineering for the Miracle Nature Trail will be done by Gilmore Associates. There's no RFP. So will that be the same here, that the engineering for ultimately for this?
There are our township engineer and are capable of doing that, so I don't know why
Okay,
we
I
would
just
need a
wanted
RFP.
confirmation of that. And perhaps more importantly, and more urgently, I have a concern about, and I raised this with the Planning Commission earlier in the week, about the fact that there's development going on or proposed on Washington Street, most particularly 901. That's the former Finneran and Haley paint manufacturing site at 901. It's immediately adjacent to David's Bridal on the Conshohocken side of David's Bridal. And in conjunction with that proposed development, and I forget exactly how many townhouses is, I think it's 62 townhouses.
Correct.
The developer needed a variance, needed several variances, got them from the zoning hearing board, I think, in large part as a result of committing to picking up the tab for improvements to Washington Street. And as a consequence, the proposed development, the engineering and planning and design that's going on for that development, is proposing how the connection will be made from the area along the Finneran and Haley property through David's Bridal to the Spring Mill Station area. So you've got a private developer who is appearing before the Planning Commission, who is proposing how to create the continuation of Washington Street across that property's frontage, while the township is about to undertake, either with its own funds in a very limited way, just the Washington Street feasibility, or on a larger scale, this feasibility. And I'm very concerned about the cart being before the horse here, that we have a private developer who is coming up with the solution to the Washington Street continuation juggernaut, while we're about to spend big bucks to take a look at all of this and to hire specialists to help us figure out what's the best way to make that connection, not just to the street, but to pedestrian paths, to the Schuylkill River Trail. And so my concern is, are you aware of all these variables? Does the left hand know what the right hand is doing here? Because there's a lot of money in play, but more importantly, there are some really significant decisions here with regard to how Washington Street will be opened up. And I raised this on Tuesday night before the Planning Commission. I said I wished that there were some way that development in that area along Washington Street could be put on hold until we have the results of these studies. Now, I know legally you can't just tell a developer, go away and come back in 2 years. I know that. But you do have options to deny approval of 901 Washington Street because they are asking for multiple waivers. They got their variance, but they're asking for many saldo waivers. So there is an opportunity to say, no, we're not going to grant these waivers, which would have the effect of perhaps sending them packing unless they redesigned. But fundamentally, my issue is that we should not be having a private developer make really fundamental decisions that are going to affect Washington Street and how it connects, how it continues. So I'm just going to put that out there and urge you to take a look at the big picture here.
So,
Thank you.
Sedell, as you know, the 901 application is in process.
Right.
Nothing's been approved.
Right.
There has been talk of the applicant improving Washington Street in front of the property.
Right.
As you know, we've been at the Planning Commission meetings together. There's been discussion about exiting, creating an exit on the termination point of Washington Street through David's Bridal, but no decisions have
Right.
been made. That application is in process, and it's going to continue through that process for some time, and I can assure you as a liaison to the Planning Commission that we will address the Washington Street issue.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing, just to clarify, is that the developer 901 is not going to solve Washington Street unless the developer 901 is going to move David's Bridal.
Correct.
So this is one piece that Washington Street of this study that Mr. Guttenplan just went over. And David's Bridal has really been a bugaboo in that area for quite some time in order to get to Lee Street, because right now, in terms of getting out of Washington Street, you have to go to Cherry Street, which is in the borough of Conshohocken. So it's not just looking at that, but we also have a major transportation area there for SEPTA in terms of Spring Mill Station. So you can't look at everything in just a real vacuum down there because of how densely populated it is. And really trying to get the pedestrian access, walkability to that area, to the train station, looking at parking. And in working with Gilmore and having some preliminary discussions, there's going to be some, I think some practical solutions there. And then there might be some really outside the box discussions about what could really happen to solve the Washington Street extension all the way through to Lee Street. Because right now it is only an emergency access. I mean, that's really all that you can get through there because you're going through a business that is David's Bridal. So by no means is any one development down there. They might be improving their frontage in front of them, but they are not solving ultimately the big question of Washington Street, which, by the way, this study has been in our capital improvement plan for several years now. And we're finally finding the funds. We know it was expensive, and finding the grant in which we can apply for that hopefully can really do this study and look at ways and look at real solutions to how we can ultimately address this situation. I mean, it's not easy, otherwise it would have been fixed already. It's certainly going to have its challenges, but that's what, just understand that 901 is not going to, or any development down there is going to solve the Washington Street, full study, so.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate Sedell, your comments, and then Rick kind of summarizing everything, because there are a lot of variables here. And, we do want to make sure that everything is being looked at from all sides and all grants, and that, it's not in isolation, that we're coming together absolutely to make sure we're clear and communicating with everybody. Mike, do you want to provide a summary on this one?
No.
Okay.
I think Rick and Vince did a great job.
Okay. Do you guys get this one? This was a complicated one. There's a lot going on here, and safety is the big factor, I think, on this one, because it's by the water. Okay, are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Roll call, please, Mr. Miller?
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Ms. Toll?
Yes.
Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
Mr. Drosner?
Yes.
Chair Nestor?
Yes. Thank you. This is for Mike. There you go. They like that. There you
You
go.
guys want to hear the gavel? You guys want to hear the gavel? Yes or no? They're shaking their head yes there.
They like the
Okay,
gavel.
we got the gavel. All right.
I think you like it more than me.
All right, going on to further motions. Do I have a motion to authorize Practical Energy Solutions to perform a township facility audit in the amount of $11,540?
So moved.
Second. Rick?
Thank you, Chair Nestor. I'm going to turn this over to our Assistant Manager, Mr. Sean Halbum, for an explanation on this agenda item.
Thank you, Rick. Good evening, Supervisors. So before you, as you mentioned, you are considering a energy audit for for all of our township buildings. That includes the admin building here, the police building, Kuntz Park, Cedar Grove Barn, the Art Center, the Public Works building, the snack stand at Miles Park, the old township building at Miles Park, and the library. This will serve as a key benchmark for our sustainable PA goals, as well as give us a benchmark assessment for our energy usage for our Ready for 100 initiatives as well. So I know I speak for the EAB leadership when I say we're looking forward to having some snapshot of where we are right now so that we can set goals for energy reduction as we go forward with some of those other projects. We're specifically interested in engaging Practical Energy Solutions because that same firm conducted an energy audit for this building, admin and police, back in 2013. So we'll be able to review some of the practices or some of the projects that were implemented after that last energy audit and ascertain how much energy savings we've realized since then. A couple of projects that were suggested after that audit were some timers for our lights. We installed a new HVAC system here since then, and we've also retrofitted the building's lights to LEDs. So we expect to see some significant energy savings. However, we know that there's a lot more that can be done to save some additional energy. We also have neighboring Springfield Township used this same firm recently. They realized $10,000 in savings their first year, and those were on newly constructed buildings. So again, we're looking forward to having kind of an outside expert come in here with a fresh set of eyes, look over things and make suggestions. Those suggestions will come in the form of a report after the audit is conducted. We can then take that report and timeline it out and also budget it out so that we can pick some of these projects and front load the projects that will give us the highest energy savings and cost savings. So that is what I have for you here tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a few for you. Did we receive any other quotes for this scope of services?
We did not. Springfield Township had requested 3 bids. I believe the 2 other contractors that performed this service were not local to this area, so their bids were significantly higher due to the travel costs for coming into the area. Again, we also want to engage the same firm so that we have an apples-to-apples comparison from that 2013 energy audit to this energy audit.
Okay.
And we don't have to, this doesn't have to go out to bid, correct?
No, this is a professional service, so this is exempted from bidding requirements.
So is there any of the scope that was quoted, is there any piece of that township staff could perform?
For the installation, yes. So when we get this report back telling us, that, you could save, 20% of your energy bill at this building if you retrofit it to LED lights. That's an example of a project that our Public Works Department is capable of, of taking on themselves. I hope that we'll have a long list of possible improvements. I imagine some of them would need to be contracted out if it was, HVAC related or something along those lines. But we won't know what specifically we can do until the report comes back.
So that's implementation after the report. I was getting more toward, can we do any of the study scope ourselves?
We have been. We've been looking through, all of the departments have been researching ways or looking into ways that we can save on cost, energy. I mean, right down to the towels that were in the bathroom. We changed from C-fold towels to rolled towels because we were going to save about 3 times the amount. The same mentality was used to replace these LED lights with some PICO grant funding. So I think we've picked all the low-hanging fruit that we can find here, and that's why we're interested in engaging, a service that, does this for multiple municipalities and probably has a lot more ideas of how we can save energy.
So have they given us any sense of what the projected return on investment might be?
No, that would be hard to guess. Again, based off of just one neighboring municipality, Springfield, I believe it was their library, which was built in the last few years, was actually the source of their energy savings. What they found was that an issue in their HVAC system was recycling air so that it was being heated or cooled multiple times. And by fixing that error, they were able to realize those cost savings. So it's not necessarily the obvious things that we would expect to find, windows or light bulbs. There's more complex systems that they're able to look at. They're able to look at trends in our energy bills and see things that are probably not going to stand out to us.
And is this a fixed price or not to exceed?
I believe this is a fixed price because the scope of the service is detailed in the quote, right down to the report being returned to us. But again, we don't know what will be included in that report until they've had an opportunity to go through all of these buildings.
Okay.
And does this audit include all the township buildings?
It does. So yeah, again, it was the admin police building here, Kuntz Park, Cedar Grove Barn, the Art Center, Public Works, the snack stand at Miles Park, the old township building, and William Jean's Library.
Which is a more comprehensive look than it was in 2013.
Correct. So that's why the cost is more than we paid in 2013 because the scope of the study is much wider.
And that Springfield Library, I think, is brand new. I mean, I see Lisa's here. It's got to be no more than a couple years old. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I think so. It's amazing that, there are inefficiencies there that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Our teaching moment for the Scouts, what we are deciding is whether to spend about $12,000 to see if we can lower our energy costs, paying for our electricity, trying to spend less money on electricity, but also to save energy and make the world a safer place and make it better for you guys in the future and hopefully your kids and your grandkids. So trying to find ways that, we have to spend a little money to do it, but we can hire experts that come in and figure out, where we're spending too much money on our electric bills. Sound right, Sean? How's that? Good? All right.
Good. Any other board comment?
You guys should come more often.
Any public comment? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Wait, that's kind of weak. There you go. Do I have a motion to approve the allocation of funds collected from the annual clothing drive to Colonial Neighborhood Council in the amount of $251.14?
So moved.
Second.
Rick?
Thank you, Chair Nestor. This was another successful year that the Parks and Rec Department coordinated a clothing drive over the Martin Luther King holiday and day of service. In doing so, I believe about a year ago, we partnered with the Colonial Neighborhood Council and agreed that we would donate half of the money that is generated from all of the clothes that are collected and then provided to A&E Clothing for their support and to support the Colonial Neighborhood Council nonprofit food bank, which is located in the borough of Conshohocken. So this is the second year that we're doing this. We're really pleased to have that partnership in place. And as was mentioned, $251.14 will be donated to the Colonial Neighborhood Council. Certainly a big thank you to our Parks and Rec Department and really just to the public as a whole in terms of their contributions. It's pretty amazing and really great to see the amount of clothes that were collected. I believe a little close to 500 some bags of clothes. We have some pictures of it. It's pretty impressive seeing the Cedar Grove barn just filled with trash bags of clothes of people, cleaning out and giving back. And this is where you can see some fruits of that labor is going to what I think we all can agree is a really good cause. So that's what we have before you.
Excellent. Any board comment? Any public comment? Excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of the following individuals to boards and commissions? Katie Erno for the Environmental Advisory Board, term ending December 31st, 2022. Tom Higgins, the Historical Architectural Review Board, term ending December 31st, 2022. Kathy Levin, Library Board, term ending December 31st, 2021. Edmund Shin, Open Space Commission, term ending December 31st, 2021. Chad Waters, Emergency Services Board, alternate, term ending December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
I think
Rick?
some folks are probably here. I don't know if anyone wants to get up and make any comments, but certainly it's great to have these volunteers and filling these boards. The one thing I'll mention that always comes up is how do you come up with these term ending dates and why are they all over the place? A lot of it is you're filling terms or there might have been a vacant term. So we just take the last term and then carry that forward. So there is a method to that madness. We're not just picking, years out of a hat. So just so people aren't like, well, I'm only serving a 1-year term. You might just be completing someone's term and then you'll be considered following that term. So I just wanted to explain that to you and to the public so they're aware of that.
Excellent. Is there anybody here from these boards that wants to say hello? No pressure to do that. It's all good.
Come on up.
You're welcome to come up and say hello in the microphone.
Kathy Levin for the Library Board. Just say hi. I don't have much else to say, so I'm looking forward.
Thanks for your service.
Thanks for volunteering.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
Okay.
Library Board.
Kathy, I
Thank
assume,
you.
have you met Lisa yet?
Yes, we know
Okay,
each other.
just making sure.
Thank you very much.
Hi, hello. My name is Edmund Shin. I'm fighting a cold, but I appreciate your voting on my nomination to the Open Space Committee. And I look forward to continuing the good work that they've done over the past several years. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You got pressured into a chat, right?
Hi, Chad Waters for Emergency Services Board. I didn't plan this, but I kind of got into this position by bringing these scouts to all of the different services within the township. So I appreciate your consideration. Thanks.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
I also want to just add a comment that Tom Higgins for HARB fulfills a unique role. We have been looking for a member for HARB that is a township resident that also has a real estate broker license. And he fulfills that, and I am so thankful that we finally are looking to fill this because it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy about that. Tom, wherever you are, thank you.
No, he was at the last HARB meeting, and it was, engaged, talking to people there, so it'll be a great addition.
Yeah, and Katie, I think, brings a lot of unique skills for the EAB as well with her environmental background. Yeah, excellent, great. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Very good. Do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amendment to permit the installation of a 3-way stop sign at West Valley Green Road and Hunt Lane?
So moved.
Second.
Rick?
Thank you, Chair Nestor. This comes along with actually some good news.
You're opening the
And
bridge, right?
The
Tell
county
me we're
is
opening
getting
the bridge.
ready to open the West Valley Green
At
Bridge.
some point in the future. When it's
Hopefully
ready.
by the end of March. And really, one of the last pieces as they're completing their repairs there is the signage and the notification. If you have driven down there, you can't cross it, but if you've driven down there to see what is going on, you will not miss two very bright yellow headache bars that are there and only 7 feet in height. We need to alert the motorist public about that, and this is one way in which we're doing it. How our stop sign is doing it, it is slowing the speed. That is a hill there on West Valley Green as you go past the cricket club and you come down to Hunt and then to Creek, which you'll be looking at in your next action. This stop will slow traffic, move it down to Creek, slow traffic. There'll be a flashing stop sign that goes through there to really alert the public. I mean, you almost have to be blind, unfortunately, to not see it. It's going to be very profound out there, but that said, there's undoubtedly people who will ignore signs, and our police department will undoubtedly be out there to help any kind of situations, but we're trying to reduce that. They being the county, have an entire sign plan that they are starting to implement. We are helping them along with some of these signs, and we've agreed to partner with them and install some of the signs that we have within our inventory in order to alert that motorist public. This stop sign piece of it being one. Why do stop signs, this is a little bit of an education, but why do stop signs come to the board is if we do not ordain the stop signs and we write a ticket and the public realizes that it's not ordained, the local DJ could throw that ticket out. So we need to ordain it, have an ordinance, go through this process. This is step one, where the board will consider authorization of an advertisement. It's advertised in the newspaper, in the Times Herald, and then it comes back to the board, and the board adopts that ordinance so that when the officer, if somebody runs that stop sign and they give them a ticket and they show up at court, they can show the ordinance that, yes, can be enforced in accordance with the law and the local law. So kind of digress there, but just to give a little bit of background of how that all works. But I guess the good news of all this, getting back to Mr. Manuel's comment, yes, the bridge is opening. The county looks like they are on target to open it in March. It'll probably be the latter part of March when they open it, and we will certainly gladly promote out the county's announcement of that when it becomes official.
Any other board comment? Any public comment? Please.
David Greenberg, Scarlet Drive. Just wondering, is Creek Road there? Is that a Whitemarsh owned road, or is that a PennDOT owned road?
No, they're all township roads.
Township roads. Okay. I know that PennDOT has standards for putting up stop signs. Do they apply to local roads like that?
They do.
Okay, because I'd be surprised. I looked at a map, and the two streets that come in there, they both look like they're cul-de-sacs with low traffic counts.
Again, this is a deterrent to slow down speed because we're going to undoubtedly, we need to slow motorists down so
Right.
they do not hit this headache bar, potentially injure themselves or somebody else. So it really becomes a life safety issue.
Well, I understand what the theory is behind stop signs slowing down traffic, but it's a bad way to slow down traffic. Stop signs are growing like mushrooms around here. There's a whole lot of them. Actually, if you want to slow down traffic, what I'd almost suggest, if you've been through East Falls by Schoolhouse Lane, the city's actually put in speed humps. They're not your parking lot speed humps, but they really do keep you down to 25 miles an hour. And you don't have to come to a full stop. And I think they're a little bit easier on the car suspension than car speed bumps. There's other ways of slowing. I understand the slowing down traffic, definitely. But stop signs, when there's too many of them, I think the traffic theory is that people start to ignore them and run them and roll through them.
Which is why we're ordaining them and we can enforce it.
Well, how often are you out there to enforce them? I mean, I think we all see people doing the Philly roll quite a bit. And I think stop signs are great on light traffic streets where they cross other light traffic streets and there's a vision problem, you can't see. But putting them on, especially Conshohocken tends to put them on state highways, and even us, there's 3 stop signs that kind of annoy me that I think should be traffic lights: Militia Hill and Joshua, Barron Hill and Harts Lane. and it's the brand-new one at Joshua and I guess it'll be Cedar Grove. It's busy streets should have traffic signals, not stop signs. And even Creek Road, it's not a super busy street, but it's a nuisance where I think there is a better solution than one that'll cost people time and pollute the atmosphere because people slowing down, speeding up, et cetera. I'm not a traffic engineer, this is all just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just my input, really, from my perspective, it's a life safety issue. If you've, I live over that way, and if you've seen the structures that they're building, these structures will destroy any vehicle that's over height. So it's going to be critical that drivers understand what they're up against here. It's not like the old one that was knocked over by a vehicle. This will have the opposite impact.
It'll knock the car over.
It will.
So here's a question. I mean, the intent down the road is for the bridge to be moved, or, you know, like the bridge itself to be redone, a new bridge done, so.
Reconstructed.
Reconstructed. What's the process for taking stop signs out, should they be needed? Or not needed any further down the road?
If stop signs aren't needed, that's
Do you
a
have to
study that's
unordain
done.
them?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
You reverse what you just did.
Yep.
You repeal
Okay.
the ordinance.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so this is an immediate safety concern that we will continue to monitor. It's a high profile, high area. To your point, Vince, you know, it would destroy a car. Yep.
And once the bridge is replaced, we can revisit.
We can revisit this. Sure. Yes?
Hi, I'm Ellen Glendenning. I used to travel that road a lot when the bridge was open. Question, will there be stop signs on the other side of the bridge too, coming from Springfield?
So on that side, there's going to be signage that is there. There is, I don't believe there's a stop sign that's going to be there. We're looking at some, you know, different kind of signage that is really going to grab the public and public's attention about it. We're also looking at ways, I know our Chief of Police, Chris Ward, came up with what I think is a great idea, putting delineators in the roadway. That's going to automatically cause you to slow down.
What is that? What's a delineator?
They're the plastic like delineators. You see them in roadways that, you know, kind of, they're on, I guess, Ridge Pike.
Oh, where to stop people from taking a turn? Okay.
So there's some mechanisms that we're putting in place. There's going to be, you know, flashing signs that are there to alert the motorist. As you know, if you've been on that side, there's not a lot of room. That is certainly has some challenges. We're trying to do our best to do the same thing that we're doing on the other side, which is really, from a life safety issue, slow the traffic down so that even if they do hit it, they're not hurting themselves or somebody else.
Has any consideration been given to maybe like, and I don't know what you call it, like the corrugated in the road, the brrrr?
We're doing that. That's one of the things that is going to be done.
Wake people up.
That's being installed.
And
The
how
county's
about
installing
similar to what IKEA has before you enter their underground garage? They have, just standing in the middle of nowhere, the thing, if you can go under this, you can make it in our garage, as opposed to hit your head now instead of later.
We are looking at all of those options and working with the county on all of those options. So great ideas, and kind of to the point of what we're trying to prevent is, you know, anyone from getting hurt. Keeping that bridge open. The reason the headache bars are there and at the height they are is because that bridge is still weight restricted at 3 tons.
No, I get why that.
So, you know, I agree.
But I agree, too many stop signs and people are going to just start ignoring them. Yeah, thank you. Then you can come to my street and slow people down.
All right. Any other public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Going on to a very similar one.
Excuse me, can we get these guys?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for coming,
guys.
guys.
Thank
Take
you
care,
for
Russ.
coming.
Bye,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No more teachable moments.
I know.
You can continue, though.
I'll do it for Fran.
Please, it's for all,
Thank
for
you.
all of us. Do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amendment to permit the installation of a three-way stop sign at West Valley Green Road and Creek Lane?
So moved.
Second.
Rick?
Thank you, Chair Nestor. Again, same issue. There's already stop signs there in two directions, correct? One direction. So this will allow it in three directions. The other item that it will be is they're going to have, you've seen these probably in some other communities where the stop sign will light up when you get to it to alert you to stop. The county requested, and they'll be installing that lit up stop sign so that people are also alerted to slow down so they do not hit the headache bar at any kind of speed if they do. Hopefully all of these, again, as I said, it's really a life safety issue. To Supervisor Manuel's point, being down there, you hit these with any kind of speed, you will hurt yourself or somebody else, and we don't want to see that happen.
So Creek Lane will have the flashing stop sign, Hunt Lane will not.
Hunt Lane will not, it'll
Okay.
just be a standard stop sign. And just on West Valley Green, not all three, it'll be just going down towards the bridge on West Valley Green. And, the ancillary part of this too is there is a pedestrian crossing there with the trail. So that's another, safety issue that we don't want anybody flying down there because that trail is used a lot and people do cross that area a lot. So these do serve some other purposes too in terms of, making sure that it is safe down there and that people that cross the road are also safe and reducing the speed.
And something that we didn't mention on the last one was that the county has been so closely involved. Did they make these suggestions?
Along with us, we've looked at it, they came with a plan to us, and we met with them and the chief and provided our input onto it as well. So the signage part of this has been very much a collaboration, because at the end of the day, it's the township that enforces any kind of signage. So they wanted to make sure that what they're recommending is something that is practical for us and something that we certainly can enforce.
Excellent. Public comment? Come on up.
Fred Walter, 637 Ridge Pike. I just realized there's going to be a three-way stop sign. Do you really need the stop sign coming off the bridge, coming up the hill, from both sides, from the bridge towards Stenton Avenue, say?
We're
Do
just
you really
trying-
need the stop sign coming up the hill? Because you want the cars slowing down, I understand that. But coming back up, you don't need a three-way, you just need a two-way, coming out of Hunt, coming out of Creek, and going towards the bridge.
Chief, you want to address this,
Well,
if you could?
Just
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll let Chief answer, because
Through studies, at a three-way intersection, two stops, signs lead to higher accidents because everybody assumes that there's a three-way stop sign. And in some of the exceptions for the warrants, you go with three, you don't go with two, again, for the safety and the accident level. And people will assume that everything's a three-way stop, and we'll have people coming through, and we'll have T-bones coming out of Creek Lane and/or Hunt when we get there. So they always recommend that you go if you're going to have a three-way intersection.
Yeah, but, okay, I'm thinking about West Mill Road, it's got two-way and not three-way there. I travel those roads all the time, Chris, you know that.
I understand that, and
We changed that.
they've
They're
been
now,
changed.
they're three ways now.
They're now three ways,
Yeah.
so we probably should go over, maybe we
Watch
get some
him,
more
yeah.
tickets.
All right, thank you.
And again, I'll just say, I can hear that this is frustrating to have so much at one location, but we will be continuing to monitor it and adjust down the road once things are final. All right, any other public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize Nick Weaver as the Emergency Management Coordinator for Whitemarsh Township?
So moved.
Second.
come back.
Yeah.
All right, well.
I can-
please go
I
with
can-
this
I
one.
can go back.
Please, yeah. Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
please.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Chair Nestor. As part of Nick coming on as our fire marshal, as his responsibility, it's fire marshal emergency management coordinator. And in accordance with PEMA's service code, every local municipality has to designate somebody as their emergency management coordinator. They maintain operation plans for the township, trainings, deal with any kind of weather-related issues. The important piece of this is if in the event we have a significant snowstorm or we have a significant rainfall and the governor declares a state of emergency and there's potential federal monies that are available to reimburse our costs for dealing with such event, we need to have one of the boxes we need to check is having somebody designated as the emergency management coordinator. So this will do this. We'll be able to provide this information in a letter that Nick has been approved appointed as the emergency management coordinator. It'll be provided to the county and to the PEMA so that it is on file in the event something like that occurs, and just his designation in that role as well.
Thank you. Any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. And we'll go back to ordinance advertisements. Do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance amendment to restrict brake retarders on Joshua Road between Flowertown Road and Stenton Avenue and Flowertown Road between Joshua Road and Butler Pike?
So moved.
Second.
Rick?
Thank you, Chair Nestor. The township over the past few years has received complaints throughout the years with regards to the trucks, the large trucks, triaxle trucks, using brake retarders, commonly referred to as Jake brakes or J brakes. They're engaged when the truck is downshifting in the motion of braking. They're very loud and considered a nuisance by those who have complained. You have the quarry that's there. They could be running, trucks all through the night in the summer hours when they're doing turnpike or, Blue Route, any kind of large paving that goes on in the evenings. So it does get very loud. Those two roads, Flowertown and Joshua, as you know, are state roads. So we contacted the state to see if that would be something that they would permit on those roads. They performed a study on Flowertown between Butler Pike and Joshua Road, and Joshua Road between Stenton Avenue and Flowertown. And they said that that would be something that could be permitted, the restriction of brake retarders on those two sections of road. They indicated the locations in which we could install signage, and it would be up to the township and the police department to enforce that, just like they would enforce any kind of traffic regulation. So in order to do that, we need to advertise it and move forward with the advertisement, and then we'll consider the ordinance moving forward. We have received ordinances from other municipalities that, there's not a lot of municipalities that have it, but there's several surrounding us that do have this and mirrored our ordinance after that in working with the solicitor's office.
Are most of the trucks on those roads from HMI?
They're not all from there. They're probably coming from there.
Okay.
They're
Better
not,
said, right.
They're not all just HMI trucks.
Right, but
They
they're
could
going
be.
to or from there.
Yeah, I mean, we go at times and receive blacktop from there. They're all the paving contractors. A lot of these companies are third-party companies that just haul, and they'll go there, they'll get their materials, they'll go to their location, wherever it might be. So you have to get there kind of from Joshua and go into Flowertown to all the major, roadways and highways and so on. So, again, if someone's doing it, we're not there, it's still going to happen, just like somebody is going to run a red light and somebody's going to go through a stop sign. But, this will give us the ability to enforce it, and we will, I'm sure, have selective enforcement like we do with heavy truck enforcement that we do. We're part of a countywide program in which we are making sure that the trucks are the proper weight, not carrying too much weight. So we're part of a county coalition that looks at that as well, and we'll do selective enforcement there. And if If we enact this, then they're in violation, they will, receive notice.
I would just recommend it with the advertisement that perhaps we send a copy, or we notify HMI, just so they're aware of it, and hopefully they know when it passes, they can notify the drivers that are going to and from their facility as well. More importantly, if they feel like it's inappropriate, they would have a chance to speak up and know about it.
I think that's a good point, we'll certainly do that.
Good idea. Any other board comment? Any public comment? Sure.
Sidelzov, I just would ask that we be given some explanation of how this braking system works, and if it's not going to be used, then what's the alternative? I don't quite understand. Is the alternative that trucks go more slowly and therefore don't need to engage this brake?
They follow the speed limit.
I believe you're right.
One of the
Okay.
major complaints over there, Sidel, from that area is those trucks speeding. I think, Chief, you know that. And they're hitting that brake, and it is really loud, really loud.
So if they were going more slowly, they would not have to
need to
use
engage
that brake?
So
Okay.
one of the things that we've done in the past, I know the police have done, is put over the speed, the radar for the speed, and it slowed some trucks down, but I think this will help. Once you get out the awareness that we're now going to enforce this, it'll slow the traffic down, and I think the residents will be a lot happier, and they'll be happier knowing that we're doing something about it.
So these drivers are not abiding by the speed limits, and therefore
Correct.
they're having to engage this special brake to slow the trucks down? Okay.
Well, and just to be clear, I mean, they could be abiding by it, and they could be using it. And when PennDOT did a study, there's certain slopes to the road that PennDOT looks at. So if it was a heavy sloped road, this is a safety feature that would be engaged. These roads aren't, the stretches of roads are pretty flat, so that's why they're permitting them, and that's why they being PennDOT did a study and said both of these roads were eligible to put this restriction in place.
Meaning that the slope is not such that engaging this brake would be essential to slowing?
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, none. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to appoint Gail Benacasa and Julie Plotkin as fire police for Spring Mill Fire Company?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Nestor. We, being the police department, will receive any applications for individuals that wish to serve in the role of fire police. They perform a background check, they being the police department, and both were done, and both individuals are being recommended based on their background check and talking to those individuals to be fire police officers for Spring Mill Fire Company. Volunteers, I should say.
Wonderful. Any board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve a hold harmless agreement for sign in the ultimate right-of-way at 735 Bethlehem Pike?
So moved.
Second.
I will turn it over to Mr. Guttenplan.
Thank you. This is at the corner of Bethlehem Pike and West Valley Green Road. This is the new building which has been built in the former site of the Rusty Scupper. Rusty Schooner, sorry. That's another restaurant.
good
This
one,
is
but
Bethlehem
not
Pike on the right side. This is the entrance in and out on Bethlehem Pike. This is the building here. The sign is proposed on the front lawn of the building and infringes partially into the ultimate right-of-way, which is the reason for the hold harmless agreement. This gives you a better idea. This is a picture of the building from Bethlehem Pike, and it's on this front lawn area, which you'll see in the next picture, is where the proposed sign is going to be installed. And this is a mock-up of the sign on that lawn, and it shows that it is 15 feet back from the curb, When the police reviewed it, the chief indicated that that 15 feet was far enough back that it would not impair sight distance in and out of the site or at the intersection of West Valley Green and Bethlehem Pike. So therefore, we're recommending approval of the hold harmless agreement.
Very good. Thank you. Any board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None, motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve a hold harmless agreement for the fence in the ultimate right-of-way at Sunnybrook Country Club, 398 Stenton Avenue?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. This is on Militia Hill Road, as you indicate in reading the proposed motion. This is a portion of a fence that the Sunnybrook Country Club has had out there for a number of years. There was never a hold harmless or any permission to put it there in the past, and it's come to our attention because the golf club wants to realign a fence that will connect to this fence. This is Militia Hill Road out here, and this area is where there is an existing 6-foot tall stockade fence which has been out there for some time. This red dotted line is the existing post and rail fence, which you'll see in the next picture, that connects to that fence. That is not really their property line. This area of that is crosshatched is an encroachment from the other property, and the real property line between this residential lot and the golf club is this diagonal line, and what the country club would like to do is relocate a new portion of a post and rail fence in this red solid line parallel to their existing property line. This property is currently being sold, and they feel that this is the right time to relocate the fence. So as a result, because they're connecting to a fence that we determined to be in the ultimate right-of-way, and there was no prior approval, they have agreed to execute a hold harmless agreement. I hope you can see in this picture, this is the 6-foot stockade fence that is about 21 feet from the center line of the road within the ultimate right-of-way of Militia Hill Road. Militia Hill Road has a 60-foot or a 30-foot from center line ultimate right-of-way. You can barely see, this is the existing post and rail fence going more or less perpendicular to the privacy fence, the 6-foot fence. It is going to go at an angle, again, following the property line once they relocate it. So the reason, again, is to acknowledge the existing fence in the ultimate right-of-way. And again, the police have looked at this and found no safety issue with it.
Thank you. Is there any board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a patio and sitting wall at 3 Catherine Lane?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. This is property within the Maple Hill development. As you can see from the highlighting, it happens to be a property on the cul-de-sac. And they are proposing a patio, a paper patio and sitting wall, pretty similar to ones that you've seen at your last couple of meetings and have been approved before. This was reviewed by HARB at their February 12th meeting, and HARB recommended approval of certificate of appropriateness. This gives you a little better idea. This is the lot, the house, and the shaded area, the cross-hatched area, is the area where the construction will take place. Very similar to some of the other ones. It's actually the same contractor who is doing several of the other ones that you've approved.
And just to clarify, these are coming because they're in the historic district?
Yes, this entire development is in the Plymouth Meeting Historic District as part of the other Corson estate. Dr. Joseph Corson Estate that's been subdivided, and Maple Hill is the resultant subdivision.
Very good. Any board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And we're kind of grouping the next few because they're similar here. Do I have a motion to approve the certificates of appropriateness for the installation of a fence at 4, 6, 8, and 10 Catherine Lane?
So moved.
Second.
Charlie.
Thank you. These are, as you indicate, actually 4 separate certificates of appropriateness, but we're looking at them together because these 4 property owners have gotten together and hired a single contractor and decided that they want to have the same fence on defining their rear property line consistently from one end of Lot 4 or 4 Catherine Lane all the way down to the other end of 10. They have gotten approval of the homeowners association for this fence, which is required for any improvement, and I neglected to mention the patio in the last motion also had approval of the homeowners association. We always look for that when we get any applications in this or other developments that require that. And what they're proposing to install is a 6-foot shadow box fence, similar to what you see in these pictures. As I say, it will be one continuous fence on the rear of all 4 of those properties. Again, this was in front of HARB, or these were in front of HARB, I should say, on February 12th, and HARB recommended approval of these 4 certificates.
Thank you. Is there any board comment? Any public comment? Sit up.
Sidelzov. My comment is somewhat more generic. It's not specifically about these certificates of appropriateness, but it is about this development. And Charlie, could I ask you to go back to the plot plan that shows the entire development for a moment, please? That one. So there are, I think, 19 new houses in this development and 3 lots, if I'm not mistaken, that contain historic structures. But one of these lots that has a new structure, not in this grouping, but closer to, I think it's Black Walnut. New house has a historic schoolhouse in its front yard, and I would just urge you to drive by and look at that historic one-room schoolhouse that dates from the 1840s, roughly, that was part of the original homestead. What I cannot understand, quite frankly, is how a certificate of appropriateness was granted for this project, and for that house in particular, where the schoolhouse sits, when that schoolhouse is literally in the front lawn of that new structure. And I would urge you, please drive by, pull over, and take a look at that one-room schoolhouse sitting in the front yard of that new home, front lawn. And the homeowner has referred to it at HARB meetings as an eyesore. It is beyond my imagination how that house was allowed to be built there, how that certificate of appropriateness was granted for that particular house, given the proximity of the existing one-room schoolhouse. There are a number of us who've put our heads together and are trying to figure out a way to pick up that schoolhouse and move it. The Friends Meeting House has agreed to provide land for it without charge. There's a cost involved, obviously, in moving it, and there are other issues. And we are working with Plymouth Township, because the Meeting House is in Plymouth, to get approval for the plan that we've come up with for a new foundation that would accept that one-room schoolhouse. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of this issue that relates to this development at Maple Hill. I don't know whether there is any wiggle room in the escrow that remains held by the township, and I believe there still is some escrow yet to be released to the developer in this case, which is Payon. But if there is any way within the law to get the developer to pick up some of the cost of relocating this one-room schoolhouse to get it out of the front yard where the homeowner doesn't want it, and moving it over to the meeting house where it will be tenderly cared for and loved for the decades to come, I hope that there's a way to make that happen. And as you, in the future, consider certificates of appropriateness for new development or modifications in the historic district, please, please exercise more care than what was exercised here. Thank you.
So no, I'm not sure there's any legal way to kind of make them pay out of their escrow funds for it, but what is the cost? Since you guys have obviously engaged some people on it, what's the cost to move it?
I believe it's $23,000 to pick it up and move it, plus the cost of the foundation. The person who is spearheading this effort is David Miller from the meeting, Quaker meeting. I'm lending a hand where I can.
But about $25,000.
About $25,000, give or take, to pick it up and move it, and then some amount of money to build the new foundation. And one possibility is to have the developer here, Payon, build a foundation that has already been designed by an architect working pro bono, I might add. So there are a lot of resources being brought to bear to try to make this happen. We have suggested to the homeowner that since they think it's an eyesore, that maybe they want to chip in, and their view is that they're giving this schoolhouse to the community, that they're doing their part. I don't agree with that, and one of their concerns is that given that the age of the structure and its wood siding, they're concerned about lead-based paint, and I get that. I absolutely get that. There are ways to remediate that, but they would rather have it gone. They would like to see it moved or demolished. So if there's anything that you can do to help expedite this process, appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. Do I have a motion to authorize escrow release number 3 for Whitemarsh Knolls LLC, Germantown Pike, in the amount of $75,461.69?
So moved.
Second.
I think this is going to Jeff.
The engineer guy, yeah.
Thank you. The request for escrow release was submitted to our office on February 7th by the developer's representative, Mark Salomon. Items are related to erosion and sediment control features, stormwater basin and earthwork related to that, and then stormwater piping to get flow to get into that basin. Someone from my office has visited the site, and we've deemed the request to be appropriate, and the recommendation is before you in the amount referenced in your motion. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
So by deeming it to be appropriate, does that mean that you have determined that they're in full compliance with all ordinance requirements?
Yes, as of today, they are.
Okay.
So we've been doing the ongoing meetings with residents and those people who are directly impacted by that development. It's a very sensitive topic over on Westaway Drive. So the residents came in, and the developer was here, Mark Salomon was here, along with his chief excavator. I think Jim was here, and Rick and Sean and Laura as well. And what was really great is that everyone got together really in a friendly fashion, and it's been very heated at times, especially with that major rainstorm we had, and there was a lot of flooding that went on back there. But everybody came together. We had a nice conversation, and the developer, excavator, and the engineers answered everybody's questions individually. Since that time, I haven't gotten any text messages or phone calls or emails from the residents, and I've run into quite a few of them, and they said everything's okay. Now, it's never going to be perfect, that area is never going to be perfect for what they're used to. It's like, again, if they're building homes in their backyard, and what they're used to is a backyard, and it's a tough situation. But the homes are going in, and what we're doing is holding Mark Salamone and his people accountable to what they need to be accountable to. And we want to make sure we do the best job for the residents over there, which is why we're going to have the meetings ongoing as necessary. So that's all I have. You have anything more to add on that, Jim? I
don't have anything to add. I think that's a great summary, and we will have continuing ongoing meetings because while Mark and his contractor have addressed the situations with this current stage of construction, as construction progresses, there'll be new challenges, and we'll address them the same way we've been addressing these.
Right.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Any other public comment? Or-
Frank did good summaries too.
He did.
Fran
He did good, Fran.
Fran did a great summary. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it,
Two.
motion carries. All good?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve expenditures totaling $1,086,971,000, I said that wrong, $1,086,971,031, oh my gosh.
Try again.
1 million.
It's getting late.
It is getting late. 1,086,971.31. And payroll totaling $721,047 and, oh my gosh. Totaling $721,047.04 and pension paid costs totaling $4,879.48 for January 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment, board comment?
My
All
only
those in-
comment is work on
Numbers?
The numbers, yes. Anyway.
Let's get the Boy
Next
Scouts
time.
back in here.
Right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carried. Public comment period? Yep,
Comments?
sure.
Actually, it's more of a question. I haven't heard anything about Abolition Hall in a while. Is that just working its way through the courts right now, or what's going on with that?
After the meeting, you can chat with Sadell and she can bring you up to speed.
The Board of Supervisors conditional use opinion was affirmed by the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas.
Okay.
There was an appeal filed with the Commonwealth Court, but that appeal has since been withdrawn.
Okay, so basically, it's a done deal now.
Well, we still have to go through a land development process here
Okay.
in the township.
Okay, I was just curious about it. Thank you, appreciate it.
Any board member, another public, sure.
If I may clarify my understanding of next steps, Sadell Zove. The Planning Commission on December 10th reviewed preliminary plans, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend denial, that the Board of Supervisors deny approval of the preliminary plans. That was a unanimous vote. My understanding, based on what I've seen in the file, is that the developer extended the deadline by which the township must vote on preliminary plans, extended the deadline to May 31st from February 28th, and did that because they've gone back to the drawing board as a result of the feedback they received from the Planning Commission, and maybe as a result of the feedback they received from the public. And so, to the best of my understanding, and I do check in with Charlie every Friday afternoon, preliminary plans, revised preliminary plans, have yet to be received by the township. And once they are received, if they are received, they will be reviewed by the township engineer as well as by Charlie. And at the completion of that review, the preliminary plan review will come before the Board of Supervisors. And then you will have until May 28th to a vote. That's my understanding.
I think it's a very important piece you're missing there, is that I believe our township engineer issued a report identifying 80-some potential issues. I believe that, my guess is that's why the developer asked for more time to try to remediate those issues. In other words, our engineer reviewed their plans and there were a lot of problems, according to the engineer. So the developer asked for more time to try to comply with those issues.
Because they did argue that they will comply, but however, they said they would comply in final plan, not preliminary plan. At any rate, they've gone back to the drawing board, and those revised plans have yet to be received, but they will eventually come before you unless Kay Hovnanian packs his bags and goes elsewhere, which of course we'd love to happen.
So question for you, Charlie. Once the plans are revised, is there a requirement that it goes back to the planning commission or no?
There's not a requirement, but I think we'll have to make that determination once we see the significance of the changes.
And I would just add, with regard to the court process that Solicitor Kilkenny reviewed, yes, the Friends of Abolition Hall and 2 individual residents did file an appeal with the Court of Common Pleas, and then the court dismissed our appeal. We then filed an appeal with Commonwealth Court, and we recently withdrew that appeal as a result of threats of litigation to Friends of Abolition Hall and to the individual appellants. So we just felt that we had reached the point at which we could no longer absorb additional costs and the risk of additional litigation. So it is now in your court. The ball is in your court once those revised plans come back. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Nancy Lee Walter. I live on Ridge Pike. I had a question as far as being notified. It was mentioned that you notify the township in the Times Herald. Has there been any recommendations to change it, to have it notify the township via the webpage or anything like that, since I feel that a lot of people no longer subscribe to the Times Herald?
The reason why it is, there are always additional advertising, but the reason why it's put in the Times Herald, I probably agree with you, and probably the supervisors agree with you, is that's what state law requires it be. It requires that it be at least placed in a newspaper general circulation. So if the township just sent out an email blast or put it on their website, that would actually not be enough by law. So that's why we always reference that it was in the Times Herald.
Is everything also, I don't think I've seen everything out, is everything now put on the email blasts?
Well, we can't put everything on every email blast, but what would
But what would be put in the Times Herald?
It's not on all the weekly email blasts now. But
Is there a
we
reason that it
certainly
is not?
I just think it's something we can look at. It's in, now we post everything in terms of the agenda, so everybody can see every document that the Board of Supervisors see. So there is mechanisms for people to be aware of what is going on. We can look at it and reference it on our website, and maybe what we do is link it there, and then folks, if they want to check the website, they can check the website for any items that we advertise in the Times Herald. We can certainly take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Just like to announce that we had an executive session where we discussed personnel.
Litigation and real estate. Yes.
Litigation and real estate.
Trifecta.
All right. Very good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Thank you. Go ahead. You can go.